granniopteryx, she knows the truth, she's linking every link.
Hello. Well, as you know, I am something of an admirer of Donald Trump, but not in this. He's very, very wrong. Well, he's human and he's made a huge mistake. I don't know quite how he's going to patch that up, but I'd be interested to see how he does. I know, look, he puts America first. And I understand and appreciate that, even when it's to the detriment of my own country, because quite frankly, my own country is being run by a bunch of people who couldn't run a Welk stall. But this was, it put me in mind of that quote from the devil in the Brothers Karamazov, where the devil tells Ivan Karamazov in a nightmare, the devil tells him that he is incapable of feeling gratitude for anything. My best emotions are forbidden me because of my social position. It was something like that. Anyway, the devil cannot feel gratitude because the devil is ego, rampant ego. Complete self-centered ego. And so everything that comes to him comes by right, not because people are putting themselves out to give or to provide a service. So when you've got that sort of an ego, you don't feel gratitude. And of course, you become very evil. Everything is yours by right. Now, if you... I was also thinking of the Palestinian issue, the Palestinian ethos, as shown in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, which is now known in Israel as Judea and Samaria. So there we have Gaza. The people there appear to feel that the world owes them a living. They don't feel gratitude. In fact, they feel quite the opposite. They feel resentment, because they're not getting enough. And if you want to see a society that's been torn apart by a lack of gratitude, you just take a look at Gaza. And that's why I'm annoyed with Trump, because there is no gratitude in what he said. And this is the ethos that he is pushing for America. And when America ceases to feel gratitude for the help of its friends, it will become as evil as Gaza in its own way. Maybe not quite as poor, but certainly as evil and destructive. So that's why I feel that this is a very bad thing. I'm not saying that Trump is a bad man. I'm not doing Orange Man bad. I'm not saying he's a Nazi or America should be spelt with K's and all the rest of it. No, but it was a big mistake, and he should revise his opinion. He sparked global indignation by suggesting NATO troops avoided frontline combat, minimising the sacrifice made by America's allies during the war in Afghanistan. Look, even if the NATO troops had simply brought the American troops cups of tea, that's still something to be grateful for. But as a matter of fact, they did a lot more than that. And this was a statement from the British Legion, which I want to read to you in full. The service and sacrifice of British personnel in Afghanistan cannot be called into question, and we condemn any comments that undermine their extraordinary contribution. 457 British personnel lost their lives in Afghanistan, and thousands more and their families now live with the lifelong physical and mental impact from service in that conflict. The dedication and sacrifices of the men and women in the British Armed Forces from the UK, Commonwealth and beyond to protect our freedoms and support our allies deserves our deep and ongoing respect and gratitude. Britain could have said, OK, well, you pursue your war in Afghanistan. We're staying out of this. We don't want to throw our healthy young people into that sort of a meat grinder. And America, if you want to deal with it, you're on your own. No, Britain went in there. It used up resources and young lives. You go to those Facebook pages where you see those smiling, fit and radiant young people, men and women, long dead now because of going to Afghanistan to help preserve something that in the end the Americans, I'm sorry, frittered away. All those young lives. That was Biden's fault. I'm not blaming Trump for that. But it was a horrific sacrifice. And Trump should realise that, even though he wasn't responsible for it. He is responsible on behalf of his country. And saying that the NATO forces, and of course I'm particularly interested in the British forces, he said that they just stayed back behind the front lines and let the Americans do the fighting for them, and that is definitely not true. And British soldiers are admired throughout the world for their bravery and discipline. Our nation's support for our armed forces is never in doubt. It actually is. Well, at least the British Legion's isn't, mine isn't, but the government, they'd sell the army down the river in a heartbeat, wouldn't they? The Royal British Legion, through our ongoing work to recognise, remember and support the armed forces community, ensures that their unique contribution is not forgotten. This recognition is shared across communities, cultures and faiths. The dedication and sacrifices of the men and women in the British Armed Forces from the UK, Commonwealth and beyond to protect our freedoms and support our allies deserves our deep and ongoing respect and gratitude. And I'm speaking as a daughter, by the way, of a man who served in the armed forces and who lost his older brother in the armed forces. By the armed forces, I mean the British Armed Forces. And Trump says we've never needed them. That's a horrible thing to say. We never really asked anything of them. They say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that, and they did. They stayed a little back, little off the front lines. Trump cast doubt on NATO's commitment to the United States. Well, I don't know that we do have a commitment to the United States. We have a commitment to NATO. And I think that's probably where Trump is going a bit wrong, questioning if the alliance would come to America's defence under adverse circumstances. Well, I can see why he might think that the European community is soft and unprepared for war. I understand that, and he's right there, but that's not Afghanistan. An estimated 3,500 American and NATO troops were killed in the subsequent 20-year war in Afghanistan. That total included nearly 2,500 Americans, 457 British, 158 Canadians, 90 French, 60 Germans and 44 Danes. The most per capita outside the US. NATO's chief, Mark Rutte, said, "There's one thing I heard you to Trump. One thing I heard you say yesterday and today, you were not absolutely sure that Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you they will. They did in Afghanistan." And it says here, a retired admiral who led troops on the front lines in Afghanistan also rejected Trump's claim. James Stavridis, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO from 2009 to 2013, said hundreds of Allied troops were killed while serving under his command. I honour their memory every single day. Even our supine and jellyfish of a Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, called on Trump to apologise for what he's described as insulting and frankly appalling comments. You know what? I think that's the first time I have ever agreed with anything that Keir Starmer has said. And he talks about the hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured. It was a terrible thing to say. So yeah, I was thinking, I was thinking of that part of the Brothers Karamazov where the devil says he cannot feel gratitude. And America should feel gratitude to all those soldiers who came and stood by them in Afghanistan, even though they frittered their lives away afterwards. Trump should be apologising for that. And just look at what happens in Gaza. This inability to feel gratitude, that is the epitome of what happens to any people who lose the ability to feel gratitude for anything. They become the devil. And America has to be careful of that too. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.